Thank you for joining me today. Well, today it is Thursday. It's January the 7th. I hope your Thursday is going well, and we appreciate you watching our videos. We're going to jump into these kind of quick here because some of the things I say, I tend to say a lot more than I intend to say, so let me try to make it as concise as I can today. We started on Monday with our theme, the word watch, W-A-T-C-H, and today's our fourth of our series. Tomorrow will be the last. Today we're going to be in 1 Peter chapter 4, verse 7. Give you a chance to find that real quick. And again, thank you for all who watch the videos. We encourage you to share these with people. Here's the thing. If you share it with somebody you know, then it's interesting how someone they know that you don't know, they can share it with them. And they get help, and you don't even realize the help that someone else gets by you helping another individual. And I think that's a pretty important concept. And again, think about how you can help somebody you didn't even know by you helping someone that you do know. All right. 1 Peter 4:7, notice this, but the end of all things is at hand. Be ye therefore sober and watch unto prayer. There's our word, to watch unto prayer. We're going to kind of bring a word in we haven't talked about thus far as the word sober. I think most of us understand the word sober in the physical sense. You hear people talk about someone who's sober. They're not drunken. They're not inebriated. They're not under the influence of alcohol. Sadly, there's people who get behind the wheel of a vehicle and they're not sober. They're drunk and they're operating a vehicle. And then sometimes something tragic happens, an accident. They hurt themselves. They damage property. They hurt other people. And sadly, maybe even kill another person because they're not sober, they're not aware, they're not able to react properly because they're under the influence of alcohol. And that's a very, very sad thing. Now think about this in the spiritual sense. Of course, we've seen the word watch and how it's connected with a prayer. The Bible says the end of all things is at hand. It's interesting how as we go further and further into time, of course, we're living in the last days. We have since the days of Peter, and there's conditions that's synonymous with then that'll continue on right through our time until the Lord's return, and these are the last days indeed. However, the Bible says we need to be sober. Now, what does that mean? Does it mean to not be drunken? Well, I certainly don't believe a child of God ought to be drinking alcohol. I think the Bible says much about drunkenness and all of that. And we'll say that for another devotion, but certainly that's there. But it also means that in the spiritual sense, to be sober is to be serious-minded. Have you ever seen someone who was drunken and they're laughing and they're carrying on, don't know what they're doing, possibly falling, and people laugh at them and people do things to them because they can't. They're not aware of what's going on. That's kind of sad, to be quite honest with you. You can take someone who's perfectly capable of handling themselves, wouldn't even act a certain way, and then someone says, hey, last night you don't even remember what you did, do you? Well, I absolutely don't. That's a pretty scary scenario. People laugh at it. They've made movies. They make situation comedies, and people act like that's kind of well, that's funny. That's kind of normal. It's not normal. It's not funny. And spiritually speaking, we need to be people that's serious-minded. We're aware of what's going on around us. That's a part of being watchful, and you're able to react properly. And so that's kind of, when you meet people, everybody likes somebody with a good sense of humor. I understand that. So, and sometimes you meet people, it's like they never laugh. They're serious about everything, and I'm not really knocking the seriousness, but some people it's a little bit off-putting, I suppose. They don't really connect with somebody. But there are some people that's the other extreme. Always not serious about anything. Nothing serious about them. You try to be serious with them, and nothing seems to you can't seem to connect there. I think you have a great sense of humor. I think you can, you don't have to, everything's negative. I get that. But there is something about being sober, being serious-minded that helps us during the days that we live. You ought to be aware of what's going on in your country. I think you ought to have a decent working knowledge of things like history a little bit. There's some people laugh. They say, well, what occurred first, the Civil War or the Revolutionary War? Well, I don't know. People laugh about that. To me, that's not really funny. I mean, to really have that kind of disconnect about our country, how it's progressed, things that's happened in it, and just some people think that's kind of funny. Well, to me, it's not. I'm not going to, write somebody off because of that. But there's things like the Constitution. People talk about the First Amendment, the Second Amendment. People don't even have hardly a working knowledge of the Constitution. They don't understand the Bill of Rights when they talk in the news about this, that, and the other and things that's going on. I think you ought to have just a decent, be able to discuss these things and understand that there's things in our country that's happening that are going against the right and the traditions of a country that's done some things that's right and stands for certain principles. So all that to say, the idea of watching, being careful, being guarded, being alert, knowing what's going on around you. That word sober gives you the idea of knowing how to react, knowing how to pray, having some ideas of what's going on and helping people kind of navigate through some situations that they need to be aware of. And that's why you got to have a good, safe outlet of news where you get it from. And just being careful with these things, being sober, like someone who's driving down the road, defensive driving, watching what's going on around them, making sure that you don't cause an accident, you can avoid one. Well, let's avoid some spiritual accidents. Let's avoid some things that otherwise could end up bad for some people. And we need to be careful about that. So to be sober-minded, to be serious-minded, not taken away from people that can laugh and have a positive attitude. I get that, but certainly to have an idea. But there are some things we need to be careful about, and we need to watch. We need to watch in prayer, and we need to be sober about it. So I hope you have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow as we finish out with Friday. Have a great Thursday, and we'll see you tomorrow.